pesky Thierry Henry came along. England international, TV presenter, busiest football pundit on the planet. We'll talk to Ian Wright this hour, everyone. There's a busy weekend of rugby to analyse as well. Keith Wood and Eddie O'Sullivan after 8 o'clock. Plus Pat Nevin on Chelsea United and the weekend's Premier League bits and bobs. 53106 as ever is where you'll get us. At Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie is here, hello.
Hey Joe.
And Johnny Ward's in the house. Hello, Johnny.
How are you, Joe? How are you getting on?
Good. We were just having a philosophical chat there during the news. Would limitless money make you happy?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't. I've always made the point if I won £1 million tomorrow, I think I might be 5% happier, maximum 10. It'll create problems for you, and you know, when Del Boy wins all the money and all he fools and horses, that's when all these problems begin. You know, because the battle to make the money, and he picks up the phone and he's like, he has a deal, and Rodney's like, Del, we're not trading anymore, and he's like, it's a really sad moment, only fools and horses, when ultimately you win the money you were looking for, and then actually it probably didn't bring the happiness that you thought. I'm not particularly motivated by money, as long as I've enough to be comfortable.
I just feel if they gave it time, they might have enjoyed the money.
Del Boy?
Yeah. I feel like if they gave it a chance, they might have been okay. I'm just making the argument. I hear what you're saying. I don't want all the money to sit there and count it and think how great it is. It's the total and absolute freedom it buys you.
But if you won 200 quid, sorry, 2 million quid, would people's perception of you change if they knew you won the money?
2 million's not enough anymore.
2 million is really not enough anymore.
That might buy you a decent house in South Dublin. No, we're talking billions here. I need billions.
Several, like a decent Euro Millions win.
80 million.
Yeah,
we're talking 150 million.
I'm pretty sure if you won 80 million, your life would go downhill.
Do you think so? Yeah,
I do.
Joe's one of these people who'd be insufferable with money, I think.
More so.
Thank you. But definitely you'd be one of those people who's just becomes a little bit more hoity-toity.
That's a completely baseless comment to make, actually.
I know a neighbour at home who won the lotto and didn't bring happiness at all. He was miserable.
Really?
I'd be mad happy. I'd just be like you say, just to be able to do nothing. Yeah. Just be able to do nothing.
How would you spend the money? Say if you won 2 million. I'd buy a few
2 million.
Will you get over the 2 million? You'll buy a house and then you're done with 2 million.
Stop limiting me to 2 million.
Yeah, we're talking 80 million plus here.
I'd probably buy a few horses. I do a bit of philanthropy as well, but I definitely waste it. Regardless of what it was, I'd waste.
So you'd get to buy horses, enjoy that game, the thrill of that. Think of all the great days out you'd have, and then a bit of philanthropy as well. You'd feel good. Maybe you have a nice residence in New York. Spend 6 months of the year in New York.
I'm getting a gaff in Brooklyn if I win the 80 million.
Brooklyn, you know.
Yeah.
I just think, Johnny, you're not seeing the big picture here.
I'm not going to win all this money anyway. So
not with that attitude.
So, well, look what Johnny does. I mean, you haven't won the lottery, and look how you spend your time. Johnny, everyone, was at the Milan derby over the weekend. This is how he rolls. So,
that's nice.
Yeah. It was 1-0 to Inter.
It was 1-0 to Inter.
Was this your first Milan derby?
It was my first Milan derby. I've been to Italian games quite a bit over the years, but
you have, yeah.
Like the flights were maybe €40 or something like that. Booked it a bit in advance, and my friend Nick Royal, who Gerard Gilroy would know very well from the Setanta days back in the day, he's long travelled to Italy for games, and we go over there, a few of us kind of meet up. Maybe we don't meet as much anymore. One of my mates lives in Bologna, and he works for goal.com. So we were like, why not go to the derby game? But interestingly enough, the prices have gone way up. Like, because it used to be, I remember when Nick Leeson was over Galway United, at the time they were charging €25 to a league game in Terryland Park when Galway United were mid-table, and around that time I went to see Milan for €14 in the San Siro, but it was 75 quid for the ticket yesterday, so that was a big difference.
Was it a full house?
It was sold out. I've never been in San Siro where it was remotely sold out. Like, crowds have struggled in Italy, but Italy is experiencing a real bump at the moment. It's probably the Ronaldo effect, really.
Yeah.
And Juve are quite good, and obviously Roma did well last year in Europe as well, and there's a lot more interest, but the standard just wasn't great, Joe, I have to say. It's funny, Stephen Kenny was talking on Friday night about why we're obsessed with England, but I was trying to compare it to the Premier League, and Milan are a shadow of the team they were. They're probably going to finish roughly mid-table. They had Higuain up front, but they had no ingenuity whatsoever. They were very, very defensive. It looked like I think there's been like 1-0 all in 29 games between the pair, and it looked like that was going to happen until the late winner, but the standard was pretty average, I thought.
There's that great photo whenever I think of the Milan derby. I think it's Rui Costa and Pirlo.
It's Costa and Materazzi.
and they're standing, and I think it's Rui Costa's leaning an arm on Materazzi's shoulder, and they're looking at the flares and the atmosphere. Is all that still going on?
That game was a semi-final or final, a quarter-final of Champions League knockout stage. Anyway, the game had been postponed at that point because of those flares, and I think Dida was hit by one of them.
The aforementioned Nick was at that game.
Was he?
Yeah, he was talking about it last night. He was one of the. He said, like, and I'm a bit like that. I kind of revel in stuff like that because it doesn't happen very often, and I know it's unsafe, but it is kind of fun to be there. And the Inter guy who was letting him in was like, our fans are crazy, what can I say? But Nick had a good time for the 25 minutes of the game or whatever.
And was last night still like that, or?
No, it was quite friendly actually, you know, because like we were in the intersection, but there were lots of Milan fans around, and there was no kind of tension whatsoever, and but there was a great atmosphere. Now, having said that, the San Siro is an amazing stadium. Like, I have to say, it's one of my favourite stadiums, but it wasn't incredibly tense. I don't think either team really believes they can win the league. Certainly, Milan can't.
Yeah.
Juve or Napoli will win the league. But
that takes a bit of the sting out of it in a way.
But the other reason you go over to Italy is you just have to admire the fashion of Milan. Like whatever, you're never going to look as cool as an Italian bloke. Like, even at a match, you know, I was coming back on the tram and I was kind of just looking around bored because my phone was dead, and it was like just some of the clobber the lads are wearing. Even at football games, they're miles ahead of us, and they go to watch games and drink like espressos, and they don't get smashed drunk or anything like that. They have a different. And I bought we had a meal in town yesterday for €9. Like, it's just, they do things differently over there. But I love Italy, I have to say. I am wearing Massimo Dutti, but I'd really recommend people to go over to a Serie A game, and San Siro is fairly straightforward to get to.
Right, okay. So recommended. I mean, when you say flights are €40 and you get that experience, I'm kind of thinking, why have I not done that? Yeah,
flew via Ryanair, came back via Aer Lingus. Both are fairly feasible, but it was sad in a way watching Milan last night. That when you think of Milan, when we got into, Peter Brackley died last week, and obviously that evoked memories of Italian football. God, they're such an ordinary side. Like, Gattuso is their manager now, the old Terry, the Bulldog or whatever, but they're just miles behind.
Okay. And so they sip their espressos. There's no big drinking culture pre-game or any of that stuff?
No, we went to an English bar where they had a lot of West Ham memorabilia. Lovely little bar in town, but Italy is just totally different. Like, it always struck me. Now, if you go to the game, you'll get some herbal smells, we'll say, at the match, but there's very little drinking before the game. It just isn't part of the culture at all.
I've been to Rome. Is Milan nice?
Milan architecturally wouldn't compare to the nicest place I've been in Italy. Have actually been places like Genoa and Bergamo and sort of Parma, smaller towns. Milan is a bit more industrial. It wouldn't even be known particularly in terms of Italian cities for. But the Italians are very friendly. I find they're for a big kind of power in Europe. They're very, very friendly people.
See, this is the Johnny Ward issue again. Everywhere Johnny Ward goes, he finds it very friendly because Johnny Ward is the most affable man on the planet. So he's not a good barometer to judge.
Well, I'd find them more friendly than, say, Parisians. Put it that way.
Well,
you know, not
Parisians.
Parisians aren't doses.
But the Italians marvel at Irish people. Even now, they marvel at Irish people going over to their games. They still think it's strange that we go over to see Serie A, which I kind of think, like, why would we not? You know, why should we always be going to England?
Yeah, no, fair point.
And my mate, who's living in Bologna, he's wanted to see Messi like for so long, so he's booked like. I think he's booked like 2 trips. They're playing Milan shortly, and maybe a Champions League game. As well, and Messi's just gotten injured, and he's very touch and go now whether he'll be fit for the game that he's talking about, so he's a bit gutted.
Yeah, it's looking like the first El Clasico this weekend without Messi or Ronaldo for a decade. So times are changing. And it seems Lopetegui's about to get the sack any day now as well, so all of that is going on. We'll touch on it no doubt across the week. Ian Wright's on the way around 7:30 also. We all like Ian Wright, do we?
I've come around to him.
Yeah.
I think when he started off as a pundit, he was very Marmite. And when I say Marmite, very dislikable. Because he was so over the top. And when England games were involved on ITV in particular, he was so wee and he was so punching the desk in favour of them. But he's calmed a little bit over the last couple of years and has become far more measured. I know in terms of how he talks about forward play, he's actually really, really interested and really, really in depth on that kind of stuff. It's
interesting you bring that up because that comes up in the interview recorded yesterday. We'll play it out shortly. So it was about 9-10 years ago he came out and said, I'm not working for BBC anymore. They just want me to be the court jester. They just want me to be the vibes man down the end of the panel and crack a few jokes, and I'm sick of doing it. And he said pretty much that publicly, and the BBC said, well, you're not going to work here again. And he spent 9 years off doing like lots of Al Jazeera and beIN Sports, and was struggling to get back in on English TV. ITV took a punt on him, and now suddenly he's everywhere. He's back on BBC, he's on BT Sport, he's on ITV.
Stuff on 5 Live as well with Kelly Cates.
Yeah, and has made a big effort to become good and insightful, and reads lots and listens to lots of podcasts. So he was kind of conscious of being the court jester on the panel as well. But he's incredibly difficult background. He touches on it. I presume you've seen that video of the teacher when he meets his teacher.
I was very moved by that, I have to say. I really was.
Yeah, well, he touches on that in the interview and explains why that teacher meant so much to him, because his home life was so horrific and terrible. So that's part of the interview. Got very little time with him to talk football. It was just one of those in-out kind of jobs, so we might get him again, but we'll bring you what we have around 7:30. He also does the greatest Roy Keane impersonation of all time.
You know how hard it is to get to these big finals. You're talking about finals.
Final?
You know what I'm talking about.
He loves Roy Keane, though.
They were made that picture of them arm in arm in the pub after that night, where they'd supposedly fallen out and everything was terrible, and Ian Wright was being accused of this and that, and there they are, arm in arm, in love with each other.
He said he's a dear, dear friend, and we spent loads of time together at that World Cup, so they were getting on great. Yeah, he said he loved, I mean, not to give away the whole interview, but he said it was like being back in a team again, because every morning it was like him and Keane and Giggs and Scholes, and they were all having breakfast together, and he said it was just great hanging out with them, and they were going to the gym together, got very competitive, all that kind of stuff.
Your teasers are very much working, I think. Yeah, I want to listen.
Giving away the whole interview.
Yeah.
So I'll shut up then. The Newsround is brought to you this evening with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And Richie, you're starting with this business down in Kerry, which wasn't so good.
Yeah, people may have seen this across social media in the past 24 hours or so, and the Kerry CCC say they're awaiting a referee's report before proceeding with investigations into the scenes that marred yesterday's meeting of Dingle and East Kerry. A lengthy brawl resulted in the dismissal of East Kerry's Paddy Clifford and a member of each management team. Dingle won the semi-final replay 4-13 to 12 points and are slated to face Dr. Crokes in next Sunday's county final. Paul Ganey scored a hat-trick for Dingle intrally yesterday and was asked about those scenes by Radio Kerry.
When there's adrenaline pumping and there's the physical stakes and when there's adrenaline going, like, you know, it's possible to happen, and the stakes were high. It was a county final on the line in the last 2 games, and you know, it happens. Is it excusable? Probably not, but you know, you're looking at your teammates, and if they're in trouble, you're going to help them out. There was no malice in any of them, really. You know, that there was no real punches thrown, or, you know, the hands weren't. It's just
2 teams going
stuff.
for it.
It's just 2 teams trying to stamp their authority on the game, I think, and you know, it just flares up sometimes, and maybe they do have to look at it. Maybe a second referee is kind of the only way to stamp authority, because there was 2 incidents today, and they were just straight. They were the same incident, really. But you know, when a referee's trying to deal with it on one side and then the other side, it flared up. You know, it's very difficult.
Did we see this brawl?
Yeah.
I saw some of it, yeah.
It's ugly.
It's not great. Do you think there is a psychological effective place whereby, because it's so in vogue at the moment, being talked about so much, that almost it's there in players' subconscious and almost kind of kicks off partially because of it? I half wonder if it's just in the ether somehow.
I would not necessarily forgive it. I'd add some understanding to that if that was the case. But when you see, as we do for those of us who are streaming online, you see coaches coming off the line and getting involved. Like, there's no reason why, if it's an adrenaline pumping thing, or if it's players being informed by what they're seeing and kind of thinking that this is in the back of their heads, there's no reason for a coach to be coming off the line and lamping digs at players. That's just insane.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
You wouldn't associate Kerry with this, rightly or wrongly. You know, you just think of the beautiful game and all that.
Yeah. They're going to have to stamp it out now. It's just reached a point where people are sick of it, and the videos are going to keep on coming. It just has to be absolutely stamped out. I mean, the Cipriani tackle was a big talking point over the weekend.
Are they sick of it though?
Was deemed harsh. The Cipriani tackle was deemed harsh, but still there was a sense, well, he has to see red because they need to stamp that out of the game. There's going to have to be some very harsh punishments handed out for GAA now.
Jail time, like.
When you listen to Ganey talking there, and he's very keen to brush it off, not in a Asher, nothing went on, but he's explaining it like adrenaline's pumping.
He's a player.
For your teammates.
He's a player.
But that's the thing. That's who you're looking to stamp this out.
I would never expect a player to stamp. I would never expect a player to come out and say, we need to punish our own team or we need to punish that team. It's for officialdom. Players are not going to do it.
But they don't have any appetite to get it sorted.
I think they do, actually. I don't think anyone in GAA headquarters could look at that and think this is okay. I honestly don't. I think there is going to. I think we're going to see a response now.
But yeah, but the players need to admit that they have a problem in amongst themselves.
Well, sure. What does it matter if they do or don't? Like, players never come out and criticise anyone.
It's not going to be curtailed either way.
Do you expect players to come out and say Martin O'Neill's a bad manager? Do you expect?
I wouldn't mind at this stage.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, if we're looking to players to come out and do it, that's never going to happen. Players are not the ones to look to, and I think that's unrealistic and unfair. But the people who are running the association need to come out and actually speak about it a bit more, and then start dishing out some punishments very quickly. I think it seems like a very simple thing to sort out.
Well, they have to work quick on this one because they got the county final coming up next Sunday.
Right.
So you would imagine that if they are going to punish players, particularly from the Dingle point of view, that needs to happen in the next 48 hours or so.
It's great because there's so much like video footage of it as well, with everyone on their phones as a sideline, that there's no need for like.
Oh, there's like 2 or 3 angles.
Yeah. You could make a kind of a montage of the whole thing.
Yeah. Leave it with me, Johnny.
Yeah.
Stick with the music.
Because they're saying they have to wait for the referee's match report, but I presume they can use the footage. They can use mobile phone footage.
What's the referee going to say? Yeah, it all kicked off. I gave 1 red card and sent 2 lads to the line from the bench.
Well, the referee can identify players and say, well, this person struck that person or this person was striking out. Like, the referee can absolutely put that in his match report. But when you see the footage, you don't need a match report, really.
But it's the games that, like, let's say, like a Leitrim quarter final, where there mightn't necessarily be anybody bothering to film the thing.
Well, that's when you do need the referee's match report. But in this case, I'm making the point, you don't actually even need much of a match report because the pictures are so conclusive. So, anyway. Asked John if he was stuck under the huge inter-snake flag behind one of the goals before kick-off. Someone says, I wouldn't have been happy myself being under that for 15 minutes.
Did you get Trapoli's Milanese snake, Johnny?
No, because typically enough, I got a flight at like 6 in the morning to get to a game that started at 8 p.m. and I missed the start.
What?
After all that?
The tickets we were given didn't have a barcode on them, so we did a couple of laps of the ground and eventually got tickets. So that was a bit frustrating. So we slightly missed the start. My Italian-based friend was very frustrated about that. But we were actually just above the Milan fans in the other end of the ground. So we got like most of the noise we could hear was from the Milan ultras, who don't have a lot to cheer about.
Arsenal Leicester this evening?
Yeah, Arsenal can extend their winning run to 10 games in all competitions tonight, and they can climb above North London rivals Tottenham into the Premier League's top 4 with a victory over Leicester at the Emirates. Kick-off in that one is at 8 o'clock. Alexandre Lacazette leads the line for Arsenal and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is on the bench. There are 2 games as well in the SSE or Tristy Premier Division, with Bohemians travelling to Sligo and bottom side Bray have their final home game of the season hosting Derry City. Both of those games have 7:45 starts. Cristiano Ronaldo has addressed the allegations of rape that have been levelled against him. The Juventus forward was facing the press tonight ahead of tomorrow's Champions League meeting with Manchester United at Old Trafford. Ronaldo is accused of raping a woman at a Las Vegas hotel in 2009, an allegation he denies, and he was asked this evening if the case was having an adverse impact on his football.
We did the statement 2 weeks ago, if I'm not wrong, so I'm glad. Of course, I'm not gonna lie on this situation. I'm very happy. My lawyers, they are confident, and of course I am too. So the most important that I enjoy the football, I enjoy my life. The rest, I have people who take care of my life, and of course the true always coming in the first position. So I'm good.
Seemingly, if he sends an Instagram message, it's worth 400 grand. That's the value on an Instagram message. And one thing I did learn in Italy in the local press, Trapp has just joined Instagram. Giovanni Trapattoni.
Instant follow.
It was front of one of the, not Gazzetta dello Sport, one other paper.
Tutto Sport. Corriere della Sera.
Possibly Tutto Sport.
Right.
But yeah, I have a photo of it somewhere, but Trapp was front like saying, I've just joined Instagram.
There was an interesting piece on the Ronaldo situation yesterday in the Mail on Sunday. Ian Herbert wrote it. And he was just, speculating about the reaction Ronaldo may or may not get at Old Trafford. I presume it'll be very warm, tends to be in these situations. But he was saying the Italian media are going all out to defend Ronaldo across the board, like season tickets have gone up, the membership of the Juve London Supporters Club has gone up by 1/3 just this season. Across the board, season tickets, TV audiences, money across the board has gone up. So, I mean, he was saying you're just seeing some of the most ridiculous things, like they got someone in one of the newspapers to analyse Ronaldo's signature, the way you can deduce things about someone's character based on their handwriting. So, like, whatever, he's ambitious, shocker, and in harmony with himself was the phrase. And the conclusion was that this man could not be guilty of the crime, and all of this nonsense is
just when you see
going on in the Italian press anyway. It's very hard for us to say very much about this case because, in fairness, due process, he's deserving of that by all means. So, it rumbles on.
It does indeed. Manchester United forward Alexis Sanchez ruled out of that game tomorrow night with an unspecified injury. Jose Mourinho also has concerns regarding Jesse Lingard, Marouane Fellaini, Diogo Dalot, Scott McTominay and Victor Lindelof. Juventus themselves will be there. Croatian striker Mario Mandzukic due to an ankle problem. United go into tomorrow night's game second in Group H and 2 points adrift of Juve, and today Mourinho again cut an unhappy figure.
I don't like this press conference.
No?
No. I don't want to speak about Pogba. I don't want to speak about individuals. I don't want to speak to the Spanish journalists because they are only interested in Real Madrid and in Ronaldo. I'm going to play against one of the big clubs in the world, one of the biggest candidates of winning the competition. That's what motivates me. That's what brings me here. And I think the press conference is going in other directions. So if he's going in other directions, I also want to go in another direction. No, I'm serious.
Or Jose.
Jose. Now, before we take a break and go to Ian Wright, tickets have been flying out the door for the Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. We're at the Olympia, 13th of November, Tuesday. And we haven't announced guests yet, but I can reveal, Johnny, the man, the myth, the legend, Paul O'Connell is going to be at the Olympia Theatre.
All around decent skin.
Exciting times. Paul O'Connell will be there, and we'll have some All Blacks legends as well, which we're going to reveal over the coming days. So tickets really have been shooting out the door. If you want to get yours, go to offtheball.com/events. And it's the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. This event is for over 18s only. So offtheball.com/events. Paul O'Connell and more at the Olympia Theatre in Dublin on November 13th. We'll have Ian Wright next.
Off the Ball on Newstalk.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Freddie's right. Can you go a bit higher, Ivan?
If I go any higher, only dogs will hear me.
Try.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Here, come on. How many more Galileos do you want?
Calm down, Ivan.
There's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
This Wednesday on The Hard Shoulder, to mark the release of Bohemian Rhapsody in cinemas, Henry McKean is on the hunt for Ireland's biggest Queen fan.
So if you think you could be champion, break free and email me now on henry@newstalk.com.
The Hard Shoulder with Ivan Yates.
With Nissan.
Weekdays from 4 on Newstalk.
Who is Galileo anyway?
With over €2.5 billion in funds under management, 30,000 investors and nearly 50 years in operation, if you're looking for an award-winning fund manager with exceptional customer service, BCP Asset Management may be right for you. For information on BCP's investment range, contact your financial advisor or visit bcp.ie. BCP. Grow your investments, reduce your risk. BCP Asset Management DAC. Trading as BCP is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Look, just stay in your room. I'm going to lock the door while I'm out.
Just take this. It'll keep you calm.
Eat what you're given or you can go hungry.
You have been listening to the